The Crawling Dead. Chapter 1. The Spill. They said it was just a minor leak, some chemical spill from an old processing facility no one remembered building, a forgotten place in the bush, half swallowed by the trees, its roof sagging under the weight of dead leaves and bad memories. It wasn't even on a map anymore. No one knew what they were working on in there. Some kind of pesticide, maybe. Others said nerve agents, toxic dispersants, gas. Whatever it was, it leaked, slowly at first, into the air, into the rock, into the spring-fed quarry the locals call Spooky Place. It didn't show up right away, not until the winds changed. A dense green fog crept over the cliffs one late evening. No birds flew, no insects stirred. The frogs stopped croaking mid-song. Even the surface of the lake, once broken by the occasional rising trout, froze in eerie stillness. That's when the stories started. The fisherman who vanished mid-cast, the boy who swore a fish tried to pull him in, the dog that refused to drink from the shore ever again. Some said it was the bass, the red-eyed rock bass that had lived in those depths since before the quarry shut down. Ancient, mean, mostly forgotten, but now changed, mutated, reawakened. I didn't believe any of it. I just wanted to fish, get out, clear my head, tie something wild, something stupid, something that might work. So I sat at my bench that week and built something out of nightmares. I called it The Crawling Dead. A fly made of radioactive garbage and blind luck, hot pink squirmy legs, twisted into knots, a body of sparkling crimson dubbing, a black jig hook, and a brass head stained with purple nail polish stolen from my daughter's desk. It was ugly, chaotic, wrong, but it had life, and that's all I needed. I arrived at Spooky Place just after sunrise. Fog still clung to the stone walls like spider webs. No sound, no wind, just a mirror-still surface and the faint chemical sting of something that shouldn't be breathed. Perfect. I tied on the Crawling Dead. First cast, smooth arc, tight line, quiet plop. The fly disappeared into the dark. For a second, nothing. Then the water hissed. A boil erupted 10 feet in front of me. Something surged from the bottom. I saw it. Flash of green, red eyes glowing, a streak of scale and shadow. My rod jerked downward, line screaming, heart pounding. I fought it, whatever it was, and when it surfaced, it wasn't just a fish. Its body was gnarled, eyes bloodshot and bulging, its fins twitched like they were sewn on wrong. And in its mouth was my fly, my Crawling Dead. It had chosen it, not because it looked real, because it looked like one of them. That was the first strike, the first red-eyed horror pulled from the depths of Spooky Place. And it wouldn't be the last. Because whatever spilled into that lake didn't just poison the water, it reanimated my flies. And the base, they remembered what it meant to feed. Chapter 2. Rise of the Rock Bass. I've hooked a lot of bass in my time. They're scrappy, wild, but they fight like fish. Bursts of power, surging runs, then stillness. Predictable. This wasn't that. The thing I hooked twisted. It didn't pull. It jerked sideways like it was trying to drag the hook into bone. My line sang like wire in a lightning storm. My arms burned, but I landed it, barely. I got it into the shallows, and what I saw wasn't a bass. Not anymore. Its eyes were red, not natural red, but glowing like coals in the dark. Its fins were torn and twitching, gills pulsing like lungs on fire. Its jaw had too many teeth, jagged like glass, and its belly was bloated, green with something pulsing under the skin. My fly, the Crawling Dead, was jammed deep in its maw, and it wasn't letting go. It wanted to keep it. I kicked the fish back into the water with a shaking boot. That's when I noticed the second swirl, then a third. Ripples, boils, V-shaped wakes forming just beneath the surface in every direction around the quarry, and then they came, exploding out of the deep like torpedoes, dozens of them, red-eyed, twitching, each one launching at my fly like it owed them something. They weren't hunting, they were feeding. My line went tight again, and again, and again. I couldn't keep up. My hand cramped. The reels screamed, and still they came, out of cracks in the stone, from beneath fallen trees, rising like phantoms from the silt bed below, each one worse than the last. One had a twisted spine, back arched like a question mark. Another was missing an eye, with worms writhing in the socket. One was so large it pulled me to my knees and cracked my rod grip down the middle. And all of them wanted the same thing, the crawling dead. It didn't matter where I cast it, left, right, under a ledge. They came for it, a direct line, a pull, like the fly was calling to them. My box of flies sat next to me on the rock. The lid cracked open slightly. Inside, I swore I saw one of the squirmy worm legs twitch. On its own, I blinked. Maybe I was tired, shaken, but then the air shifted. Thick, humid, and heavy with that same chemical rot I smelled when I arrived, and suddenly I wasn't so sure those bass were the only things that had reanimated. Maybe it wasn't just the water. Maybe the flies themselves were waking up, and they were hungry. Chapter 3. Swarm from the Quarry. The third fish didn't bite. It leapt. It launched itself from the quarry's surface like a missile, striking midline, jaws snapping, shattering the leader, and vanishing back into the dark with a splash so loud it echoed off the cliffs like a scream. That wasn't a strike out of instinct. That was violence. I stood frozen, water dripping off my hands, heart pounding, rod trembling. Around me, the quarry was coming alive, not with nature, but with some kind of summoning. The crawling dead fly box clicked shut on its own. No wind, no movement, just that soft, plastic snap. I reached down with shaking fingers and flipped the lid open. And that's when I saw it. The flies were moving, tiny twitches, imperceptible if I hadn't been staring. Their squirmy worm legs flexed slightly. Then again, one twisted its soft pink body and pressed against the corner of the foam as if trying to crawl out. I slammed the box shut, too late. From below the rock ledge, I heard a low groan. Not the wind, not water, something breathing. I backed up, casting another crawling dead out in desperation, not to catch, but to distract. The water boiled instantly. 4, no, 5 fish swarmed it from below, fighting each other for it. Their jaws snapped like trapdoors. They smashed into each other mid-swim, rolling, gnashing, biting chunks from one another just to get closer to the cursed fly. Then they turned, and they looked at me. I'd seen curiosity in fish before, but never recognition. They knew what I was, and worse, they knew I was the one who brought the crawling dead to life. I spun around and grabbed my gear, flybox, vest, rod pieces, stuffing everything in my pack like I could outrun it. The air got heavier, sticky. My throat burned like I'd inhaled vinegar and gasoline. Down at the water's edge, something big moved. Not a bass, not a fish. It had arms, or fins that had begun to resemble arms. I didn't stay to check. I scrambled up the trail, tripping on roots and stones, flybox bouncing against my chest. With every step, the sounds of the quarry changed, from the splashes of fish to wet, dragging slurp, slurp, slurp of something climbing the bank. I made it to the ridge before I looked back, and what I saw burned itself into my skull. The crawling dead fly, the one I had cast and left behind, was now floating midair, hovering like it was suspended by wires of light. Around it, the rock bass churned like a whirlpool, spinning, screaming, evolving. They were changing, flesh stretched, scales blackened. Eyes grew larger, glowing like coals, and from the surface of the quarry, something huge was rising. Not fish, not human, something called by the fly. I ran, didn't stop until I hit the tree line and collapsed. But even as I gasped for breath, I felt something ticking in my pocket. I reached in slowly, carefully, the fly box, still shut, still sealed, but warm. And from inside, I heard the faintest buzz, almost like a whisper, calling me back. Chapter 4. Escape from Spooky Place. I ran. For how long, I don't know. Branches whipped my face. The trail twisted like it didn't want me to leave. My pack bounced on my back with every gasping breath. But the buzzing, That quiet, steady ticking hum from the fly box never stopped. I made it back to the parking lot. My car sat alone under the pine trees, covered in a light sheen of green dust. Like the air itself had gone toxic. I fumbled with my keys, dropped them twice. My hands were shaking like I'd just seen the devil. Maybe I had. I slammed the door shut behind me and threw the fly box onto the passenger seat. I should have left it. I know that now, but something in me, something deep, wanted it near. I turned the key. The engine clicked, then again. Nothing. Dead. My phone? No signal. Of course. I looked over at the fly box. The lid was cracked open just slightly. I didn't remember it opening. I swear I'd sealed it tight. I leaned in slowly, cautiously. Inside. The flies were gone, all but one. The original crawling dead. It pulsed. It breathed. And then it moved. Not the wormy legs. No, the whole fly. It twisted in place like something under the surface of its synthetic body was waking up. Its brass bead shimmered with a faint purple glow, and I swear, for one split second, it looked right at me. That's when I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. I turned toward the windshield and saw the first base, crawling out of the woods. Its body dragged behind it, spine cracking with each motion, gills wheezing, mouth dry and gasping, but its eyes, red, wet, and full of rage, never left mine. Behind it, the bushes twitched, another one, then another, not flopping like dying fish, moving with purpose, using limbs that had no right to exist, dragging themselves forward, step by step, gurgling, not for food, not for territory, for the fly. I reached over, grabbed the box, and bolted from the car. I ran back into the woods, downhill, back toward the quarry. It was the last place I wanted to go. But I had one thought in my mind. I had to end it. If I could destroy the fly, the original, maybe it would stop. Maybe it would break the connection. The base, the mutations, the madness. All of it seemed tied to this one abomination I had created. I hit the cliff's edge and looked down. The quarry was boiling, literally boiling. Fish churned in the center like a whirlpool of blood and foam. From beneath, something massive stirred, a shadow that stretched across the whole lake bed, coiled like muscle under black water. Above it, floating in the air like a beacon. The first crawling dead I had cast earlier, still hovering, still twitching, calling them home. I took out the box, opened it. The last fly writhed in my hand, wrapping one of its legs around my thumb like a leech. I fought every instinct in my body. It didn't want to burn. I didn't want to throw it. But I did. I hurled it into the quarry's heart, straight into the vortex. It hit the water with a hiss, and everything went silent. The swarm froze, the pulsing stopped, even the air held still. Then, like a sucked-in breath, the water collapsed inward, dragging the boiling mass of rock bass and sludge and death down into the quarry's gut. Then, boom! A shockwave blasted outward, knocking me off my feet. I hit the rocks. Black water sprayed sky high. The sound of screaming gills and tearing flesh filled the air. And then, nothing. Silence. Just a quarry. Still. Dark. Dead again. I lay there, breathing hard, bruised. The box, gone. The flies, gone. I thought it was over. I thought I'd killed it. But as I limped back to my car, hours later, sore and muddy and hollow, I noticed something on my front tire. A smudge, a streak of purple, and a single pink squirmy leg, still twitching. Chapter 5, Last Cast, Epilogue. They drained the quarry a month later, said it was for environmental reasons, but I know the truth. They didn't find any fish, just bones and one tiny fly box, melted shut, still twitching. Thanks for watching, brave anglers. If you made it this far, you're now part of the legend, Zombie Fly Co., where dead flies don't just catch fish, they come back for more. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and always check your fly box. You never know what's waking up next.